smart enough to not say, Houston, there's a light out there that's following us.
And what the hell is that? You know, what is that? And I couldn't even talk. I was just amazed at what I was seeing.
This is the Beast of the Week podcast.
It's definitely gross, but at this point, I have not slept in like 2 days, so it sounds about right.
Oh, Sam, you not getting enough sleep?
No, I'm not. I do not sleep at all. I got like 5 cats on my fucking head.
Well, as a podcast producer, sleep deprivation is near and dear to my heart when I'm working on the Beast of the Week podcast. Hello, I'm John Cannon.
Hello, I'm Casper Mattresses.
Hello, I'm Purple Mattress.
You guys are neither colors nor mattresses now, please, or friendly ghosts. You're
Okay.
very unfriendly ghosts. Say your names.
I will say I am Sam Harris.
And I'm Toria Ainsworth.
And missing tonight, conspicuously, is Joe McGlinchey, who is just drowning under a pile of toast right now.
That's
So much toast.
sounds crusty.
I actually, walking home, I saw him.
Oh.
The toast was starting to turn into some kind of wonderful bread pudding, but no breathing.
You do not want to eat the pudding that surrounds Joe Glinch.
Also, the street. This street pudding is. I'd
No,
put it
street pudding's fine.
2 stars.
Listen, I worked in downtown Boston, and the street pudding is to die for.
Is it really to die for?
If you're willing to die.
Well, sign me up, bucko.
If you're ready to die, the street pudding is an option.
Well, rip diddy do. I'm here for you.
So, Sam, what are we talking about today that's not street pudding?
We're talking about a different kind of street pudding, a little bit of a,
What? What?
talking about a homegrown sleep pudding.
Sleep pudding?
Sleep pudding.
Definitely do not. That sounds like some incident at an old folks' home.
That sounds like Bill Cosby.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we're at the Cosby house right now talking about sleep pudding.
Oh no!
And
no!
What I got for us right here, we got a wonderful beef scarganoff for you.
A beef scarganov?
Yeah,
That sounds like a delicacy.
it is quite a delicacy.
It seems delicate.
It's a little rough around the edges. You know, you want to fry up the little noodle ends
Ooh.
somehow. I don't know how you do it, but
Do you want to translate beef scarganov for these people? Because I don't speak fucking
Sam?
Italian,
you don't speak,
Russian.
idiot. Yeah, it's a creepypasta.
Ooh, we haven't done one of those in a minute.
We haven't done one of those since episode 1.
No, we did the goat.
Yeah, but there was like actual things.
This is actual things. How dare you belittle the research?
I'm not saying it's not actual things, but
How dare you belittle the goat man?
well,
He didn't. He just elevated the goat man.
I would like the goat man to be very small.
Fair point.
Fair point. I'd like him to be at least dick height.
Pocket-sized.
Oh, that would be so cute.
Use him to cut up apples with his axe.
Oh, man.
Aww.
I want to
You
see
can, like,
him.
feed him like little.
You ever, like, you're cooking and you gotta chop up the meat and you're like, man, I got some other stuff to do. Pop the goat man on the cutting board. Bam.
Ooh, the great
Oh, a
bitty,
little home chef.
Yeah.
the great bitty goat off.
If you donate to our Patreon, we will 100% get you a mini goat man like in Spy Kids 2, the little monsters they had.
Yeah, in Funko Pop form.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We did not say that it would be functional.
We did say
I promised it to
Funko.
you.
Oh shit!
I swear on the street pudding.
It's a new KitchenAid attachment from the Beast of the Week.
Goat.
Goat. Goat. Just goat. Here he is. The greatest of all time attachment.
All right.
It's kind of a thing. But no, we're talking today about the Russian sleep experiment, which is a super famous creepypasta. One that is well known to a lot of people, and recently
It's actually like such a popular one that when you search Russian sleep experiment, it took me like 4 whole Google entries to find the creepypasta because so many of them are like Snopes and shit. Like, is this a hoax?
Yeah, I mean, it's super realistic because it was... I mean realistic in a sense that it could happen.
If you're a fucking dummy.
What, was you just fucking want me?
Bitch. I called you street pudding, fucker.
Oh, no. And then I melt.
You killed it. You turned him into street pudding.
You turned me into street pudding. It depicts what can happen to the psyche after too much sleep deprivation. It is regarded as
like
one of the... what? Do you want to add on?
Oh no, I was just
Do you want to
saying,
add on? Do you have anything else?
No, please continue.
You don't?
I thought you were done.
You don't?
No, I don't.
All right.
Do we have your permission to continue, Toria?
No, you goddamn don't!
Why are you still talking?
I miss Joey.
I don't. I love you, Joey. I'm kidding.
I mean, I'm about to turn off... John, do you mind just putting your thing over there? There we go. I'm blocking out Toria now. Yeah. Personally, I think women should be neither seen or heard.
Fuck you.
Because I'm really not a fan of this one. There we go. All right. So she left. So anyway, we can continue on the episode. So the Russian sleep experiment is regarded as one of the most famous creepypastas of all time, and actually holds the record as the most viewed creepypasta on the Creepypasta wiki. It's getting real hard to say creepypasta these many times.
Creepypasta. Oh god, it's coming out of my computer!
She sells shells by the creepypasta store. There wasn't a way to search the most viewed creepypasta on the actual creepypasta site. Unfortunately, it's not a thing that you can do, but it definitely did add on a plugin to my Google so that every time I look at my computer, it shows you the freshest new creepypasta.
That's not terrifying at 3 a.m. I think I'm revealing my intimacy with this topic.
Well,
yeah.
This one especially I would not like this at 3 a.m. I wouldn't like it at 2 a.m. I would not like it with ham and jam. I would not like it, Sam I Am.
Thanks, Dr. Seuss.
You're fucking... Why are you here, Sil? Personally... I'm just kidding. Personally, I don't think I have an experience with sleep deprivation, a la the Russian sleep experiment, but I think I might have like kind of a little bit of narcolepsy.
Yeah, you sleep like a bad friend.
Yeah,
very suddenly and very heavily.
Yeah, immediately, but you still are there, you just don't think you are.
I think that's like a big narcolepsy thing. That's the difference between being very tired and narcoleptic, is that when you're narcoleptic, when you fall asleep, you still exist as a human, and you don't think you do.
That's called Ambien. Woo!
Yo, have you checked out the fucking Reddit for Ambien?
Oh, it's so
It's
good.
hilarious.
It's amazing. Check it out.
I have.
But for sure, I think I might have a little bit of
The narcs. Yeah, you fall asleep like nothing.
Well, I don't think that's... I think it's at 10 a.m. that I fall asleep like nothing, or 2 p.m. or
it's a pretty
3
reasonable
p.m.
time.
I think more closely you have sleep apnea.
Someone call that walking pneumoniclepsy.
Monoclepsy.
As a
What?
doctor, I was
The
like
doctor
that.
said it.
But John, I believe you do have insomnia, correct?
I do. I don't have chronic insomnia. I've discovered.
So there's no weed for it.
No, that makes me sleep for sure.
Oh,
but
good.
what it does happen sometimes, I have discovered I have somnophobia.
You're scared of going to sleep?
I hate sleep so much
Wait, why?
because it is a gateway to nightmares. It is darkness.
Okay.
It is kind of death.
Okay.
I got a real quickie. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not about that. I like to stay up, and that's really bad. I think my record for staying up is 3 or 4 days at this point.
Holy shit.
That's not good.
About 36 hours in, you get adrenaline rushes right when you're about to sleep. And so you're so tired you can't sleep. It's like, remember in Burlington when it'd be so cold it doesn't snow?
Yes.
It's the same thing. It's like
It's that
I am
fucking
so
bright
far.
blue sky that there's not a cloud in the air.
It's
and
scary.
it's just cold.
Dead.
Yeah, that's me when I'm trying to sleep after a while.
Ooh.
I haven't done that in a minute because
Well, that's good.
I have a full-time job, and last time I stayed up all night before that, it didn't go well. But yes, insomnia. I've dabbled in sleep deprivation.
I've dabbled in sleep deprivation.
I'd say I'm a lightweight in it.
Yeah, a casual on the fighting
Casual
on the
depriver.
sleep fighting scene.
It's gotten a lot more voluntary these days.
Well, that's good or bad?
Think a good thing?
Yeah.
I guess no. Voluntary is probably good. You're kind of like a what is
Self-aware.
it? Like you're not an incel anymore. You're a V-cell.
A visa. I'm pretty sure you just turn into a single person once you stop being an incel. You're just
Yeah.
single now.
Some would say, but I'm still an incel and I have a girlfriend.
Personally, when I'm in that zone, there's like general confusion. It's hard to follow a train of thought or a conversation. There's you'll get like aggravated pretty easily. And a lot of that also comes from the confusion. This is something we will talk about a little bit more. Microsleeps are a very, very real thing where, at least maybe not in the true definition, but like it's a very alarming thing when you're just going about a normal task and it's just like your eyes close and you sleep for about a millisecond and then you snap back into reality from like the beginnings of dream world.
I think
Oh, I do that in class sometimes.
Yeah.
I want to say that is a big thing that I do, and I think that's why
Yeah.
I often fight back when I'm trying to go
Yep.
to sleep, is that I'm constantly micro-sleeping like 30 times a minute. Or I'm
Yeah.
like, no,
No, that's exactly what
I'm
happens
still
when you're about to
here.
Last time I hung out with you that happened, you demanded I order McDonald's and then you fell asleep.
yeah, micro-sleep Donald's. Make micro-sleep.
But if you're to like look online for what symptoms of minor cases of sleep deprivation are, you see things like weight gain, diabetes, high blood pressure. I really think those are more like consequentially to like where sleep deprivation gets you, where you're like, I am too tired to deal with getting a healthy meal. I'm going to eat whatever's in my face. I'm going to get McDonald's at 3 a.m. because Sam demanded it.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like
and
part of that definitely ties into depression.
Yeah, high blood pressure, I could see that being more of an issue just because like there is a stress on your body.
Yeah.
But weight gain and diabetes, that's just from like being fucking strung out on no sleep.
Yeah.
That's fair.
However-
I think because your brain isn't allowed to sleep when you're not sleeping.
Yeah, when you're not sleeping,
Obviously.
so you eat more for your brain to function at a
Yeah.
reasonable level.
And a lot of the time, your nervous system kind of regulates, things like hunger, serotonin,
Well, you're basically
Adrenaline.
forcing yourself into survival mode. Fight or flight is like amplified. Like you're putting yourself into a situation where your body is screaming like, why are we awake? What's the threat right now?
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah, no, that sounds absolutely correct, because when I am low on sleep and really trying to stay awake, which I did recently, I think I did 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock.
That's pretty good.
I'm getting better.
That's a
But-
long stay.
It was, because it was like a working stay. It wasn't like a
Yeah, it's hard to do it on work.
I was just hanging out stay. It was like
It's a lot easier
I had to
just
run
hanging.
errands and shit. Like up until the point that my body was like, okay, Samuel, time to die.
Yeah.
Like my body, I was just like, like just going through the fridge and throwing shit at the wall, just going crazy. Dead.
No, it's real. And scientists and like I can speak from experience. After several days, like the official lists say things like delirium, which is It sounds a little severe for just feeling confused all the time. Hallucinations is listed, which sounds extreme, but typically they're described as dark spots in your periphery.
Oh, I've had that.
That
in
definitely
high school.
happens. That definitely happens. And
Sounds about right, yeah.
I didn't sleep in high school, and I
yeah.
would frequently get the dark spots.
Dark spots, yep. And eventually you start wondering if they're shadow people. And I have been there.
Shadow people.
Yeah, like an apparition. It is alarming.
Like some fucking
That's
Yu-Gi-Oh
fucking
shit?
terrifying.
Well, at work, I'm who needs me right now? Who's over my shoulder? But when I'm home, I live alone. I'm cat or ghost. That's pretty. If there's a sound in my apartment, cat or ghost.
They both look the same.
Yeah, but science nerds claim that these aren't quote unquote true hallucinations, and that leads me to the question: what requirements make it a true hallucination?
Do you want me to cut you off right there? So, Alice in Wonderland syndrome, the sufferer will view everything, including themselves, as the incorrect size. This is one part of
Certain kind of mushroom trip.
Yeah.
I think that's more so what the actual book was getting at, but
Yeah.
it seems like that. I mean, hallucination, mushroom trip. That might divide it into what is seen as a true hallucination. So there's Cotard syndrome, whereas you feel as though you are missing organs, or you don't need them. It is named for Jules Cotard. First described the symptom in 1880. So real awesome job about health. World.
Being a doctor then would have been sick. You just wear a long ass mask, being like, "You're gonna die."
Yeah, you were just kind of there oh, well, I deprived you of sleep. You've developed this syndrome. So, super dope.
Bye.
Super dope for you. Just kidding. Me. And then it just happens.
Science.
A woman with Cotard syndrome, actually, which is really interesting. There was a woman with depression and symptoms of psychosis that around the same time as Cotard believed she didn't have a brain or intestines and did not need to eat. Which is odd.
It's, my mind is full of awful jokes.
Now, are you ready for the twist?
There's a twist to this story?
There's a twist. How did she die? For 500 points, Toria.
Did she get run over by a car?
They didn't have them.
Okay.
In 1880, they did not exist. Maybe you could have said carriage.
I think they had cars in 1880.
Are you guys going to fight me about...
I mean, have you ever watched the Flintstones? They had cars.
They had cars in the same way a toddler has a car in the Flintstones. I will not accept that.
Yeah, I won't either. Trebek. Tori, you're really saying car. Give me something better.
She jumped off a cliff.
Okay. John, how do you think she died?
The first sandwich she had after getting over this, it was just rotten. She had a bad Reuben.
Bad Reuben and Cliff.
Similar.
So, for the woman that did
Sam,
not
they had
think
cars
she had
in the
intestines.
1880s.
Did they really?
Yeah, real early ones. I think.
Oh, so
a mechanical car.
They're not really cars.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
I don't think they're cars. I will not say that's a car.
The Daimler motorized carriage.
Yeah, okay, they're calling them carriages. I don't call my car the fucking... I have a 2003 Toyota carriage.
Sam, it's not my fault you're not inventive with your diction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should start calling it that, huh?
Yikes.
So, do you have your runnings in for what happened to the woman with Cotard syndrome? We have
Yes,
jumped
tell
off a
us.
cliff and ate a bad Reuben. Both are wrong.
Damn it.
She died of starvation.
She could have died of starvation because the Reuben sucked so much.
I mean, every time I eat Subway, I'm pretty close to that. So,
Yeah.
fair.
But Not a twist, Sam.
I feel like that's a twist. The woman that didn't think she had organs.
What does life look like when you don't think you have a brain? Because you got to think to have a brain.
I feel like you just do.
I mean,
right?
To be fair, I've had many a evening where I'm pretty sure I don't have a brain anymore.
I usually exist like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started a podcast on that very concept.
I joined it on the same concept.
So this woman with Kotar, does that count as a hallucination? I feel like that's a delusion, not a hallucination. You can't hallucinate not having organs unless you got an external organ that you don't think is there.
I don't know. I apparently this is described as a true hallucination.
See, that's what
at least pertaining to this.
This is why I don't listen to science in a very broad sense. Because you're not hallucinating. I saw shadow cats.
Your cat does look like a shadow
book.
cat.
Yeah, but he wasn't. I didn't have him yet. I just stayed up too late. But I saw a thing.
They just like
maybe it was a premonition.
This lady just poked her tummy and is like, "I ain't got fucking colons."
Well, no one has colons, plural.
Well, you got like 40 miles of it, so you can have a couple.
I guess that's true.
I got some to spare.
With like a rubber band or so. You just pinch them. I don't know. I feel like that's true hallucination. That like if you were to open it up and look, you don't see them.
So 2 questions. Was that due to sleep deprivation?
No, this was a true hallucination example.
And so what was this a result of an unethical experiment?
No, this was just a woman with hallucinations.
Depression.
Oh, dang. Well, that's
And
my
psychosis.
unethical experiment.
Yeah, existing.
Yeah, it's unethical.
It
so
really is.
What can we say about unethical sleep experiments or experiments? What can we say about unethical experiments? Why are we talking
That
about
they
this?
definitely happen.
In Russia.
Everywhere.
Russia. Everywhere.
So, if we're gonna start discussing unethical sleep experiments,
Because you work with experiments that are, a little bit unethical.
all of my experiments are ethical.
Quote unquote.
Thank you very much.
You kill a lot of people, though.
We can,
No, I don't.
listen, I understand you signed a non-disclosure agreement, and that's fine. It's fine.
And throughout human history,
There's an entire
there have
catacomb of bodies under Massachusetts from all the experiments. There's a lot of hospitals here.
been lots of hospitals, yes.
of bodies.
That's pretty dark considering Boston Children's.
That's just one. You gotta kill a few kids for
that's
science.
One, but there's a lot of.
How?
I mean, the coffins
How?
are smaller, so you can fit more in the catacombs.
Or just get a full-size catacomb. A lot of kids.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's really IKEA ripped off the catacombs. In a sense.
I don't
they're,
disagree.
If we were to discuss an unethical sleep experiment so long ago and far away, with, say, 5 subjects that were forced to stay awake between 15 and 30 days, possibly reinforced by a gas stimulant, well, we got the Russian sleep experiment.
Oh boy.
Hot dog, hot baby. Russian researchers in the late 1940s kept 5 people awake for 15 days using an experimental gas-based stimulant. They were kept in a sealed environment to carefully monitor their oxygen intake so the gas didn't kill them, since it was toxic in high concentrations. This was before closed-circuit cameras, so they only had microphones and 5-inch thick glass porthole-sized windows into the chamber to monitor them. The chamber was stocked with books, cots to sleep in, but no bedding, running water, and a toilet, and enough dried food to last all 5 for over a month. The test subjects were political prisoners, deemed enemies of the state during World War II.
Everything was fine for the first 5 days. The subjects hardly complained, having been promised, falsely, that they would be freed if they submitted to the test and did not sleep for 30 days. Their conversations and activities were monitored, and it was noted that they continued to talk about increasingly traumatic incidents in their past, and the general tone of their conversations took a darker aspect after the 4-day mark. After 5 days, they started to complain about the circumstances and events that led them to where they were and started to demonstrate severe paranoia. They stopped talking to each other and began alternately whispering to the microphones in one-way mirror portholes. Oddly, they all seemed to think that they could win the trust of the experimenters by turning over their comrades, the other subjects in captivity with them. At first, the researchers suspected that this was an effect of the gas itself.
After 9 days, the first of them started screaming. He ran the length of the chamber, repeatedly yelling at the top of his lungs for 3 hours straight. He continued attempting to scream, but was only able to produce occasional squeaks. The researchers postulated that he had physically torn his vocal cords. The most surprising thing about this behavior is how the other captives reacted to it, or rather didn't react to it. They continued whispering to the microphones until the second of the captives started to scream. The 2 non-screaming captives took the books apart, smeared page after page with their own feces, and pasted them calmly over the glass portholes. The screaming promptly stopped. So did the whispering to the microphones.
After 3 more days passed, the researchers checked the microphones hourly to make sure they were working, since they thought it was impossible that no sound could be coming with 5 people inside. The oxygen consumption in the chamber indicated that all 5 must be alive, and in fact, it was the amount of oxygen 5 people would consume with a very heavy level of strenuous exercise. On the morning of the 14th day, the researchers did something they said they would not do to get a reaction from the captives. They used the intercom, hoping to provoke any response from the captives they were afraid were either dead or vegetables. They announced, "We are opening the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor, or you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you your immediate freedom."
That's good. A little Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I think
Yeah,
that's fine.
But I
think it worked
I
out.
gotta do something. To their surprise, they heard a single phrase in a calm voice response. "We no longer want to be freed."
Debate broke out among the researchers and the military forces funding the research. Unable to provoke any more response to using the intercom, it was finally decided to open the chamber at midnight on the 15th day. The chamber was flushed of the stimulant gas and filled with fresh air, and immediately voices from the microphones began to object. 3 different voices began begging, as if pleading for the life of loved ones, to turn the gas back on. The chamber was opened, and soldiers sent in to retrieve the test subjects. They began to scream louder than ever, and so did the soldiers when they saw what was inside. 4 of the 5 subjects were still alive, although no one could rightly call the state that any of them in life. The food rations past day 5 had not been so much as touched. There were chunks of meat from the dead subject's thighs and chest stuffed into the drain in the center of the chamber, blocking the drain and allowing 4 inches of water to accumulate on the floor. Precisely how much of the water on the floor was actually blood was never determined. All 4 surviving test subjects also had large portions of muscle and skin torn away from their bodies. The destruction of flesh and exposed bone on their fingertips indicated that the wounds were inflicted by hand, not with teeth as the researchers initially thought. Closer examination of the position and angles of the wounds indicated that most, if not all of them, were self-inflicted.
The abdominal organs below the ribcage of all 4 test subjects had been removed. While the heart, lungs, and diaphragm remained in place, the skin and most of the muscles attached to the ribs had been ripped off, exposing the lungs through the ribcage. All the blood vessels and organs remained intact. They had just been taken out and laid on the floor, fanning out around the eviscerated but still living bodies of the subjects. The digestive tract of all 4 could be seen to be working, digesting food. It quickly became apparent that what they were digesting was their own flesh that they had ripped off and eaten over the course of days. Most of the soldiers were Russian special operatives at the facility, but still many refused to return to the chamber to remove the test subjects. They continued to scream to be left in the chamber and alternately begged and demanded that the gas be turned back on, lest they fall asleep. To everyone's surprise, the test subjects put up a fierce fight in the process of being removed from the chamber. One of the Russian soldiers died from having his throat ripped out. Another was gravely injured by having his testicles ripped off, and an artery in his leg severed by one of the subject's teeth. Another 5 of the soldiers lost their lives if you count the ones that committed suicide in the weeks following the incident.
In the struggle, one of the 4 living subjects had his spleen ruptured and he bled out almost immediately. The medical researchers attempted to sedate him, but this proved impossible. He was injected with more than 10 times the human dose of morphine derivative and still fought like a cornered animal, breaking the ribs and arms of one doctor. Then his heart was seen to beat for a full 2 minutes after he had bled out, to the point where there was more air in his vascular system than blood. After it stopped, he continued to scream and flail for another 3 minutes, struggling to attack anyone in reach, and just repeating the word, "more," over and over, weaker and weaker. More. Until he finally fell silent. The surviving 3 test subjects were heavily restrained and moved to a medical facility. The 2 with intact vocal cords continuously begged and begged for the gas, demanding to be kept awake.
The most injured of the 3 was taken to the only surgical operating room that the facility had. In the process of preparing the subject to have his organs placed back within his body, it was found that he was effectively immune to the sedative that they had given him to prepare him for the surgery. He fought furiously against his restraints when the anesthetic gas was brought out to put him under. He managed to tear most of the way through a 4-inch wide leather strap on one wrist, even though the weight of a 200-pound soldier was holding that wrist as well. It took only a little more anesthetic than normally to put him under. In the instant his eyelids fluttered and closed, his heart stopped. In the autopsy of the test subject that died on the operating table, it was found that his blood had triple the normal levels of oxygen. His muscles that were still attached to his skeleton were badly torn, and he had broken 9 bones in his struggle to not be subdued. Most of them were from the force his own muscles had exerted on them. The second survivor had been the first of the group of 5 to start screaming. His vocal cords were destroyed. He was unable to beg or object to surgery, and he only reacted by shaking his head violently in disapproval when the anesthetic gas was brought near him. He shook his head yes when someone suggested reluctantly they try the surgery without anesthetic, and he did not react for the entire 6-hour procedure of replacing his abdominal organs and attempting to cover them with what remained of his skin. The surgeon presiding stated repeatedly that it would be medically impossible for the patient to still be alive. One terrified nurse assisting the surgery stated that she had seen the patient's mouth curl into a smile several times whenever his eyes met hers.
When the surgery ended, the subject looked at the surgeon and began to wheeze loudly, attempting to talk while struggling. Assuming this must be something of drastic importance, the surgeon had a pen and pad fetched so the patient could write his message. It was simple. Keep cutting. The other 2 test subjects were given the same surgery, both without anesthetic as well, although they had to be injected with a paralytic for the duration of the operation. The surgeon found it impossible to perform the operation while the patients laughed continuously. Once paralyzed, the subjects could only follow the attending researchers with their eyes. The paralytic cleared their system in an abnormally short period of time, and they were soon trying to escape their bonds. The moment they could speak, they were again asking for the stimulant gas. The researchers tried asking why they had injured themselves, why they had ripped out their own guts, and why they wanted to be given the gas again. Only one response was given. I must remain awake.
All 3 subjects' restraints were reinforced. They were placed back in the chamber, awaiting determination as to what should be done with them. The researchers, facing the wrath of their military benefactors, for having failed the stated goals of their projects, considered euthanizing the surviving subjects. The commanding officer, a former KGB agent, instead saw potential and wanted to see what would happen if they were put back on the gas. The researchers strongly objected, but were overruled. In preparation for being sealed in the chamber again, the subjects were connected to the EEG monitor and had their restraints padded for long-term confinement. To everyone's surprise, all three stopped struggling the moment it was let slip that they were going back on the gas. It was obvious that at this point, all three were putting up a great struggle to stay awake. One of the subjects that could speak was humming loudly and continuously. The mute subject was straining his legs against the leather bonds with all of his might. First left, then right, then left again, for something to focus on. The remaining subject was holding his head off his pillow and blinking rapidly. Having been the first to be wired to the EEG, most of the researchers were monitoring his brainwaves in surprise. They were normal most of the time, but sometimes flatlined inexplicably. Inexplicably. I don't think I can say it.
You just did.
They were normal most of the time, but sometimes flatlined inexplicably.
Good enough.
Close enough.
Yeah. It's a hard word. It looked as if they were...
It's okay, Sam. Reading's hard.
Reading is hard. I don't like these old fucking hieroglyphics. It looked as if they were repeatedly suffering from brain death before returning to normal. As they focused on paper scrolling out of the brainwave monitor, only one nurse saw his eyes slip shut at the same moment his head hit the pillow. His brainwaves immediately changed to that of a deep sleep. Then, flatlined for the last time, as his heart simultaneously stopped.
The only remaining subject that could speak started screaming to be sealed in now. His brainwaves showed the same flat lines as one who just died from falling asleep. The commander gave the order to seal the chamber with both subjects inside, as well as 3 researchers. One of the named 3 immediately drew his gun and shot the commander point blank between the eyes, then turned the gun on the mute subject and blew his brains out as well. He pointed his gun at the remaining subject, still restrained to a bed as the remaining members of the medical and research team fled the room. "I won't be locked in here with these things. Not with you," he screamed at the man strapped to the table. "What are you?" he demanded. "I must know." The subject smiled.
Have you forgotten so easily? The subject asked. We are you. We are the madness that lurks within all of you, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread. The researcher paused, then aimed at the subject's heart and fired. The EEG flatlined as the subject weakly choked out. So nearly free.
Okay, I got thoughts on this creepypasta.
What are your thoughts?
What are those thoughts, Jonathan?
Okay.
Lay them on the table like so many organs.
With, with known stimulants, psychosis does not set in 15 days, and certainly not psychosis of this level. Obviously, I get it, this is an experimental stimulant they're playing with, but even at that, 15 days and you literally mutilate yourself to the point of being beyond medical science, not going for it. And the thing that bothers me the most, all right, we'll go beyond the science as I do every day of my life when I float on to work on my
I'm here in the
sneakers.
defensive huddle.
Okay,
ready
okay.
to go for you.
From an English standpoint, from a writing standpoint, this story is so strong until the last moment when it goes, "What are you? We are the spooky." It's like, it's so fucking, it's such a lame ending. It builds so strong for the lamest ending I could imagine for all of this. Like, it would be better if the fucker just died.
This story is like doing like a fucking 900 and Tony Hawk and then just fucking falling on your face. You just immediately go like, poof, and your special goes away.
Yeah, and then it just turns into like, you better not, better go to sleep. Santa's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. And I think we could do better.
I think it's people, and some are actually.
Somewhat.
People. Humans.
People are better.
No, people are doing this. There's currently 2 movies coming out for this creepypasta.
Oh, really?
2
That's
different
exciting.
ones. There's already a short story.
That is very exciting.
Yeah.
There's already a short film on YouTube that Sam and I watched.
Well,
It was really good.
It was really well done. They didn't do the Russian sleep experiment full justice, but I feel like having the organs ripped out and everything would be hard to do.
that's high budget.
Yeah.
It's high budget and like hard, like easy to look bad.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
their ending was much better. I don't think Hollywood's going to do it better. Although apparently there is a Hollywood Russian sleep experiment happening. There's one independent film
Right.
and one Hollywood film being made.
Ooh, this is a race.
Yeah, so it really is.
It's like the Cola Wars.
The independent film started much longer ago, but the Hollywood is more recent. But they're both coming out. It's kind of like The Cave. You know,
oh yeah,
like
the other big
yeah.
creepypasta.
Yeah, like the Cave had like a couple. Like they had The Descent, What Lies Below. I think What Lies Below was a movie.
Yeah, What Lies Below.
Yeah, like all
That's a
all
pretty good
that
movie.
all that came around the same time. I think this is going to happen around the same time as well.
I will say, and I would love to be proven wrong, the longer a creepypasta is, the worse it gets.
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
this one's pretty short.
As a purveyor of the spooky, as I think I am qualified to call myself, this one is right on the length where it's like, they're not going to do it right in the end. Like, this is the exact length of, like, potential.
In the end, no, I don't think they
Yeah,
didn't stick
like,
the
you know,
landing, but the whole way up. They
yeah.
definitely did a very good job of pacing until the end.
I will go ahead and call this a micro Stephen King. They can write, but they can't do a fucking ending.
Oh my god, yeah. Holy shit. Yes. Yes. Which I'm sure for the person that wrote this creepypasta, who it's anonymous.
They did a fantastic job.
Nobody knows who wrote this.
It was a Russian.
No.
Russian.
Well,
This is Confessions.
it could be because the English in this is pretty bad.
Yeah, there's some rough points.
Yeah.
For those listening, we took some creative license to make parts of this legible.
Yeah. I had a hard time with one of those lines for a while there.
No, that was just your inability to pronounce a word.
No, I'm talking about the
Your
when,
inability to pronounce like 3 different
the
words.
when instead of the then.
Okay.
It should have been like
yeah.
like when heart stopped beating.
That's only 3 keys over on the keyboard. I don't know how a Russian keyboard works though. They got backwards R's.
That's true, and their D looks like an A with like a funky leg. I will say this is entirely that you said with sleep deprivation. Yeah, it's hard at 15 days to get these effects. It's very possible though with a aerosolized amphetamine to get there.
I will because like you see with amphetamine usually you see like fucking mugshots of meth addicts and they pick at their fate, like they're covered in scabs from picking at themselves.
Yeah.
It's on par. I'm just saying 15 days. Like if they just picked any other time frame, this would be a lot more plausible to me.
I think the difference is when you see someone who is a regular user, they're still not intaking the drug 24/7.
That's true.
They're getting highs and lows, and in this experiment, they are constantly getting pumped with an aerosolized compound of whatever gas this is, and depending on route of intake, it can affect your body differently
That
and more
does make
severely.
sense.
But aerosolized, it's only going through one source.
I'm just saying if they even made it 20 days, I'd be like, all right.
So if the gas is amphetamines, the way amphetamines works is that you guys know, like SSRIs, things like Zoloft, serotonin.
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
There we go. Nice. The way amphetamines work are that they're kind of an adrenaline reuptake inhibitor.
And SARI. Sorry.
Yeah, which is also known as epinephrine, and there's also norepinephrine.
Okay. That's what you jam in someone's heart when they eat too many peanuts and they're not supposed to.
Exactly. And there's a possibility that this might not be amphetamine, it might be the methamphetamine, which is
the meth.
Exactly. It's not too different. It's actually really not different at all. It's just got a little methyl group at the bottom.
But it makes all the difference in the body.
It absolutely does. Essentially, what it does...
Chemistry's fucked.
Chemistry really... just like the littlest thing in chemistry changes everything.
Everything.
It's nuts. So amphetamines, they act as an epinephrine reuptake inhibitor in the easiest sense to say. Meth not only does that, but it's easier to uptake into your brain, first off. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, it also, because of that methyl group, allows you to take all of your serotonin stored up and just go, and just forces all of it out at once. Constantly.
All right. You're a convincing pitch man. Where can I get this meth?
I also, after researching, I was like, where can I get this meth? This sounds amazing.
Sounds delightful.
It's great.
I will crime for more of this.
Yeah, but it's actually very harmful, so don't do that because it, But that's essentially how methamphetamine works. It takes everything that you have and it slowly causes your brain to signal to purge it all for excitement.
So it just it replaces all the feelings with like, let's go.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
Let's go.
It also replaces your ability to reuptake any of those feelings.
Well, that's why you just get more meth.
Well, the way reuptake works is it kind of doesn't allow your body to store any of it.
Well, yeah, that's why you get more meth. My bag stores it.
Well, they would be getting a continuous source of meth, but the serotonin, you're not getting more serotonin.
Okay, so if they're doing amphetamines, these Russian prisoners, they're not probably rushing themselves. They might be rushing themselves.
Maybe one.
They're probably having a killer time for a minute there.
Yeah, in a really small dose. They're probably just regular.
For like 8 hours, they're probably having the time of their life.
Yeah, and the story does make sense that it amps up after a bit. To begin with, for a day or two, there's almost no problem. So it might be a dose thing.
I'm gonna speak to that point later on.
All right. What else you got for us?
Once my shirts get popped off, what do I got for us now?
You got a lot of shirts on right now. You're wearing like what, 70 shirts?
I'm wearing a way too tight t-shirt.
You kind of look like the guy from the Pork and Beans music video.
Yeah, I eat my candy with it.
Rivers Cuomo?
Weezer really needs to put some inflection in their voice if I'm gonna listen to them.
Yeah, they should be called Weezer.
I don't understand why, but okay. What we are gonna talk about here, you guys ought to get your 4 hours if you're gonna operate heavy machinery, because we're gonna talk about some actual real life fucking catastrophes that have been caused by sleep deprivation, because even though this creepypasta may be an exaggeration and is unfortunately definitely fiction, at least in this sense, bad shit can happen. Really bad shit, highway incidents, that's a big thing,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure if this is true, but it was told to me if you drive after a certain point of not sleeping, it's effectively the same type of penalty as a DUI. It's the same level of impairment of driving.
I believe
that is true.
You're right, and I believe that's part of the reason why they changed it from driving while intoxicated to driving under the influence.
Yeah, I'm under the influence of not having the sand, man.
Yeah.
I really wish this could go without saying, but evidently it doesn't. Do not fly a plane or a boat if you are too tired. Heavy machinery while sleep deprived leads to disaster. That's why on the little pill bottle, it's like, do not operate heavy machinery. It doesn't only mean tractors, despite the fact that that's exactly where my mind goes every time. It's like, yeah, I'm not driving a Zamboni today. I'm fine. Get on the highway.
Zamboni.
I'm gonna kill a hockey player.
I'm not clearing the ice, bud.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Fuck the
Fucking
ice.
Fuck yeah, bud.
street sweeper. Like I rarely drive a street sweeper, so I can do whatever.
I only drive twisted metal street sweepers.
I know that for a fact because you're my designated driver. It's scary,
Yeah, it's terrifying.
but the streets are fucking sparkling after.
Oh, you know.
A famous example of which is the Exxon Valdez, and if that sounds Hispanic, it's not.
I thought you were going to say, if that sounds, recognizable. But instead, you didn't say that.
The Exxon Valdez, as many know if you've you had some fucking classes,
Was the last ruler of the Aztecs. And when you shit a lot in Mexico, they call that Exxon Valdez syndrome because you're spilling all over the toilet.
The Exxon Valdez was a oil tanker that caused a massive oil spill in Alaska in 1989, in which 10.8 million gallons of oil spilled out into the environment. But it came from the environment, so it was the wrong environment.
It wasn't supposed to be here.
Oil is a problem in the wrong environment.
Yeah, all
I don't think that's too controversial to say that oil in certain environments is fine because that's where its home is,
where it be.
Where it lives.
But in others, it's like this is a dolphin's domain.
Yeah, all the dolphins
Yeah.
and seals and walruses and penguins
And dogs.
They were like, you don't even go here.
But the basics of the Exxon Valdez disaster is that there was a ship, and it was a big ship, and it had a couple hulls, but they weren't enough hulls for what happened. And they were cruising along, they went to the oil, and then they were bringing the oil back, and on a heavily traveled route, this was like a well-known route. This third mate, Gregory Cousins, do not put your third mate behind the wheel is another thing I've learned.
Oh, fun fact, the reason why the third mate was behind the wheel is because the captain was too drunk.
Well,
Nice.
You know what? I'd take a qualified drunk man over the third choice anytime.
That's the Russian drunk experiment. That's next week.
The Russian... Sam, I'm pretty sure Russia is the Russian drunk experiment.
Yeah, we're already looking at it.
We're banned there anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Third mate Gregory Cousins, who failed first and second mate school, he collided with Bly Reef, which is roughly an obstacle on par with the road median that you turn the right way on every drive home every day. He should have fucking known, but guess what? The guy that you pick up last and you got to sleep in on the carpool to work, he took the wheel and he just fucking flipped the Hummer.
Are you sure he slept in?
Well, in my analogy, he is, you fucking hole poker.
Wow.
You might as well be the Exxon Valdez.
Sorry, are you poking John's holes?
Don't poke my holes on air.
I thought Tinder
Oh,
made
but
us
they're just
sacred.
so inviting.
I know they're inviting, and
listen, I
I've poked
can't-
them many times, but trust me.
Listen, you must not succumb to the siren call of my hole.
Oh, avast me, Odysseus.
If you must strike yourself to the mast to avoid, I promise you, they turn into monsters when you get closer. It's just like
in the Odyssey.
it's not dissimilar to Charybdis either.
Yeah, they're rolling by, and and Odysseus
It's
is
this Ace
strapped-
Ventura thing with a talking butt.
He's strapped to the fucking pole hole and it's just John gaping on a rock. He's like, no!
I am wearing Ace Ventura cosplay, though. Anyway, this is tied to sleep deprivation because third mate Gregory Cousins had slept 6 of the last 48 hours, but being the third mate, I'm pretty sure he was just shooting oysters.
Yeah, I feel like as
mean?
He's just shuck and shoot.
Yeah, shuck and shoot.
This guy's being a real bastard, and he caused all the penguins to get dirty, Don. But silver lining of the Exxon Valdez is that Dawn dish soap, their stock went through the fucking roof. Everyone knows Dawn saved the penguins.
It's true.
You gotta look for the happy moments among the drowned pelicans.
The drowned pelicans.
So next up on our sleep deprivation related catastrophes is the accident that happened at 3 Mile Island. On March 28th, 1979, 3 Mile Island suffered a catastrophic failure in which a valve in a secondary non-nuclear section became stuck and leaked coolant everywhere. By the way, the 3 Mile Island was a nuclear reactor.
You can still taste the coolant in the cobblestone.
Yeah, if you lick it.
Much like the Boston molasses disaster, you can still smell the antifreeze in the ground.
Antifreeze smells so tasty. I get how dogs die.
Just take that last sentence out of context. I get how dogs die.
I'm just saying.
I would like to join them.
Dude, I would if it wouldn't kill me, I'd drink a glass of antifreeze right now. It smells so good.
It's sweet. It's very sweet.
I'm sure
So
it is.
if you do accidentally drink a bunch of antifreeze, you can also then just get super shit-faced and save yourself from dying.
Yeah.
I'm just trying. Really?
The cure to antifreeze is drinking.
So you're telling me that all I have to do is do a fucking antifreeze bomb and I'm A-okay. Just drop a fucking shot of Vico.
No.
You take the shot of Vico and then you drink a fifth of vodka.
Yeah.
And then you're good.
Because
you'll be fine. It's
the antifreeze wants to bind to the same receptors that alcohol binds to.
But alcohol is like, get the fuck out of the way.
So it sounds to me,
alcohol is more competitive.
All I'm hearing is that college kids are pussies with their drinking games.
I really think, frat boys need to up their game. No SoCo.
Antifreeze challenge.
Antifreeze challenge.
Starting it right here, right now.
No,
you can call Tori personally responsible.
I will not have this fucking blood on my hands.
There's no blood because they're dying.
It's internal.
No blood. No blood.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I'm calling you out.
By the time the crew realized what happened, the reactor's core had melted.
Much like antifreeze.
As some quick
frat boys.
Shut the
my
fuck
esophagus.
up. A little background on nuclear reactors. How they operate is that they constantly perform nuclear fission, and the energy that is produced is originally produced as heat, which is then turned into electricity. However, the system needs to remain cool to prevent overheating, which is what creates what we know as a nuclear meltdown.
You say nuclear? What are you, Bush?
Nuclear. And the official investigations ruled that the sleep deprivation of the crew led to some poor judgment that resulted in a series of events that led to the disaster and also prevented them from recognizing it early enough to prevent a fair amount of the damage. Similarly to the 3 Mile Island, another pretty famous nuclear reactor accident.
Yeah, it's
famous.
It's up there.
It's up there. Some might say it's one of the most well-known nuclear disasters.
It's no Springfield nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
It's Chernobyl.
Who?
It's
Never
Chernobyl.
Chernobyl?
You might have heard of it.
Never. Shared meltdown?
Chernobyl?
Cher had a meltdown.
YouTube, share meltdown.
Chernobyl? Where was Sonny
Noble
when we
Cher.
needed him?
April 26, 1986. At 1:23 a.m., Chernobyl nuclear reactor
Happened.
happened.
Oops.
Through a series of mistakes, A series of mistakes by operators caused reactor number 4 to run low on power after the previous day's test on power, and there was a power surge, and they didn't realize that reactor number 4 was running dangerously low on energy. Well, low on power. Post-incident, investigators reached the conclusion that fatigue caused by 13-hour shifts was a leading contributor to the human error that led to the explosion of reactor number 4.
All right. So through this, I have learned something, and it might be controversial. I don't mean to start a war. Listen, we're all aware of the documentary The Simpsons.
Yes. The new age fucking Nostradamus.
Homer sleeping on his job suddenly seems a lot more responsible despite being a safety inspector in Sector 7G.
Yeah?
It's very... Although he should be sleeping at home without Bart annoying him.
Well, Bart was too busy being a boy and he had to choke his son on the reg.
With a very forceful, might I say, hymen destroying... Not hymen. What's the thing? What's the thing here? Not the hymen.
Hyoid! Hyoid! I'm thinking of the word
I
hyoid!
missed the episode of The Simpsons where Homer destroyed Bart's hymen.
Jesus Christ!
Hyoid, not hymen.
Damn it,
Why
Sam!
would they name them similar?
So we talked some about sleep deprivation. Obviously, it's led to some bad things, and we've talked about sleep deprivation as a concept, but we just read a story where it's all about experiments and unethical experiments at that. So let's talk about the history of sleep deprivation experiments and its uses unethically. Now, the first thing to talk about actually is a very ethical sleep experiment, which is actually one of the only ethical sleep deprivation experiments I could find, which is known as the Stanford Sleep Experiment. So, like I said, this is one of the most ethical, and it's actually one of the most observed and chaperoned experiments to date. December 28th, 1963.
Sexy 3. Nice. I like it.
A high school...
Sexy.
The 60s were sexy.
They were.
Cold War. High school student
Very
Randy
sexy
Gardner.
Horny war.
Horny war. Randy Gardner, a high school student in, I believe, San Diego area, along with 2 classmates, set out to find out how his body would respond if he stayed awake until from December 28th, 63 to January 8th, 64, which is a total of 264 hours, just over 8 days. Now, in this experiment, there were no stimulants, not even caffeine. This boy didn't even have a latte. And
Damn.
I don't think they invented yet.
They
didn't have milk until like 1980.
Italy.
Italy. 1980.
It was all just... It was just fueled purely by distraction and real heart-to-hearts and ping pong and the pursuit of science.
Wait, are you
noble.
joking about the ping pong? Because that was like a thing.
No, they played ping pong and he was fucking killer at it. Like, he stayed good at ping pong.
He beat somebody at ping pong at the end of it.
Throughout all this, he stayed fucking great at ping pong.
Yeah.
I'm not good at it on like a fucking full 43 hours.
For a full 43, how people
Normal
sleep.
Originally, this was actually a high school science fair experiment, which is significantly more effort than I ever put into mine. Anyway, this experiment was actually very, very significant scientifically. And let's track it through. Gardner started nice and early at 6 a.m. on the 28th of December. Day 1 obviously went fine. We can all go that long. Day 2, he found some... Oh, Sam can't. Day 2, he had some trouble focusing on his surroundings and recognizing objects. On day 2, have never had trouble recognizing objects personally.
You're like, car or banana?
Yeah, it just... It wasn't clear how bad he was at recognizing objects, but personally I haven't. Day 3, grouchy, slurred speech. Have those day 1, so I don't know. I can't back that up.
Yeah.
Day 4, now this is a fun one. Day 4, he imagined that he was Super Bowl champion Paul Lowe, a 200-pound halfback for the LA Chargers and Kansas City Chiefs before the AFL merged with the NFL. Fun fact. which was a far cry from Gardner's own 120-pound frame. Not that... What?
The Chargers were around back then?
In the American Football League, yes.
Oh my God.
Anyway, at this point, which is, pretty early in the event for a high school fucking project and pretty good notoriety, Stanford researcher Dr. William Dent joined and got involved, which, my perspective provided some legitimacy to the experiment.
Yeah.
And throughout the experiment, Dent was there. Gardner he got hospital checkups. He had no adverse physical effects, nothing that made them say, shut this down. But he had trouble staying awake. Dent and his friends, they distract him with games, conversations. Like we mentioned, pinball, ping pong.
Yeah,
he remained a ping pong wizard until the end of his days.
Pinball
sleep
wizard.
days. I think he's still alive.
That's impressive.
That he's
And
alive.
through all... Yeah. No, actually, that's...
My
That's a big-
my
younger than our
coordination's
parents.
fucked up just
Amazing.
on a normal basis.
That's part of it, actually, is that, throughout all of it, he had a number of obviously psychological effects. He had trouble focusing. He was irritable. He had trouble recalling things. It was a whole thing. But he never had any physical side effects. He would hallucinate sceneries that didn't exist, which, getting up to like 9-10 days, that makes sense. He's just dreaming a little bit.
Yeah.
Your brain's probably going to kick into some mild REM at some point without you trying. Yeah. And then on January 8th at 2 a.m., Gardner completed his experiment, met his goals, had a brief hospital checkup. He spoke to some journalists and then proceeded to sleep for nearly 15 hours, which doesn't seem like that long a time for how long he was
that
awake.
doesn't sound like very long at all.
But you can only stay asleep so long.
Yeah. Well, 15 hours. I usually verge on that every Friday to Saturday morning.
Since the experiment, Gardner actually, since for the rest of his life, I'm pretty sure he's still alive. Basically, for the rest of his life, Gardner had no abnormal health issues. He slept reasonably. He was just a normal dude. And basically, this serves as like the inverse of the spooky spaghetti we just read for you, the frightening Fagile.
Ooh.
This is
Yeah.
This is an extremely ethical, voluntary experiment, and Gardner actually holds the world record for sleep deprivation, which will remain unbroken because the Guinness Book no longer will accept any sort of
they won't
extreme
do it.
human experiments like that. It's all about how many fucking pez you can stack on the tip of your penis.
Yeah, which is a famous one that they put on the cover now
Yeah.
as a picture.
Believe it or
How many?
pez.
Yeah, Ripley's Believe It or Cock.
I would read that. That would be an incredible book. Oh my god, it's all the strange penises in the world.
No, I know.
Ripley's Believe It or Cock.
Ripley's Believe It or... Mine looks like a pugtail, so I've been writing to them for a while. So ethics are fun.
No, they really get in the way of me having fun.
Well, then, do you want to, as I open up my shirt to unveil a bunch of watches, do you want to hang out in my unethical space?
I would love to get some couple Ronexes and a Louis Vuitton, and I will sit with you in the pit of lack of ethics as we
Cool.
just,
Now let's take my
traffic
cape,
humans.
my trench coat and do it like a fucking elementary school fucking parachute.
Parachute, yeah, we're gonna dive on in there.
Yeah, we hide under there. So now that we're all in here, torture.
We're gonna let's talk about torture. So
now that we're in here, torture.
let's as we're sitting in Sam's parachute pants full of lack of ethics, torture. Throughout history, in all methods of torture, throughout countries, regardless of desired outcome, if you have tortured, you have utilized sleep deprivation. It's everywhere. No matter what you did, no matter what you wanted, you'd made someone not sleep. Why? One of the main reasons that I could think of is that it's a non-physical form of abuse, and it seems kind of like indirect mental abuse. It's not even like you're not inflicting this on somebody, it's just happening. It leaves no marks. And even with today's understanding of sleep, we really don't understand it. We don't understand a lot of what the need for it is, what it accomplishes. We just know it's got to happen.
Like dieting.
Like dieting, it just makes you sad.
Yeah.
Like sleep, it's
just,
like
I
today's
guess
over.
It does the thing.
You go to sleep, and then you're like, oh, I wake up and I'm still alive. There's bullshit today. Fuck.
Great.
Fuck. Why it doesn't work as torture? Torture, generally speaking, broad strokes, is that you're trying to get something out of somebody. You're trying to get some words out of their mouth that you need to hear. Sleep deprivation doesn't work for that because sleep deprivation causes delirium. The sleep-deprived individual will say whatever, and they might not even realize what they're saying. It will lead to false confessions, and it will lead to...
I think that's actually what happened with the kids in Central Park.
Yeah, a lot of false like that's because especially in a lot of I've been watching the confession tapes on Netflix, and a lot of these people are just grilled for hours. Eventually, you're gonna say some shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I need to fucking go to bed, or I'm gonna start seeing shit.
Yeah,
let me go.
And throughout history, all over the world, we're gonna see it, as we're gonna see right here in a few moments. Buckle up your holsters, bad boys. We're gonna start slinging.
Yep, here we are, the Scottish witch hunts. Returning to our usual types of topics, witches, Scotland, sleep deprivation.
Our usual topic, Scotland.
We've talked about Scotland, fair deal.
Yeah, we really have, strangely enough.
Fair.
Sleep deprivation was a tactic to find out who was a witch in 16th century Scotland, which sounds like
hundreds for you keeping score at home.
For those using the metric system. Civilians needed a confession from the accused before convicting. I guess, okay, cool. Thus came Waking the Witch, a fun game show that they used to play, where the accused would be deprived of sleep for days, causing hallucinations.
That'd be such a funny skit. It's like the witch trials, but it's a game show. That would be fucking hilarious.
Yeah, just, and if they lose, Alex Trebek burns them to death.
Witchcraft.
Wheel of Witchcraft.
Woo!
So in the game show Waking the Witch,
Who wants to be a witch?
Evidently nobody. You're gonna die.
Yeah. Damn.
Fuck.
Shit. All those Wiccans in high school. Dead. So in this game show, the accused would be deprived of sleep for days, causing hallucinations, as we covered. And the woman, which is a fun thing that we have just kind of tacked on there, which is probably... Because I think if you're a guy, you're a warlock. In Scotland...
yeah, Giles Corey in Salem. Over here, we were far more progressive. You could be any gender in a hoich.
Well, yeah, but in Scotland in the 16s...
It's all the ladies.
Only ladies. Only ladies. And the Loch Ness Monster. The women then said or did things unusual to their nature, which, after sleep deprivation, were interpreted as confessions. Which is just not true. Because it was psychotic episodes of I have not slept. Next
up, we have the London Cage, one of Britain's most feared prisoner of war facilities in World War II. The POW interrogation section, or PWIS, would bring the POWs there to be interrogated. Though officials strongly deny claims of torture, prisoners claimed they were often stripped naked, beaten, subjected to electric shock, and extreme physical exhaustion, and along with that, sleep deprivation.
So... in the same rough aisle. The same fucking place, pretty much.
British aisle.
All these are coming from. We have the IRA with Operation Demetrius, an operation by the British Army in 1971. Almost 350 people were arrested under suspicion of being involved with the IRA. They were reportedly beaten, harassed by dogs, burnt with cigarettes, starved, and, of course, or else we wouldn't include it, deprived of sleep.
Our very own U.S. military.
Yeah, our hands are just as dirty, folks.
2005.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and say it. This is the CIA, and that's what they admitted to. It's more. It's the CIA,
Fair.
folks.
Yeah.
The CIA.
MK Ultra destroyed my faith.
According to a 2007 New York Times article, the US may have adopted these methods from Soviet-style tactics. However, Cold War-era soldiers were often trained to overcome extreme sleep deprivation in preparation of potential capture by the USSR. And routine KGB methods included constant light, isolation, extreme cold or heat, reduced food rations, and sleep deprivation.
Now, have either of you seen The Men Who Stare at Goats?
No, but I know Clooney was
I've
in it.
seen the trailer for it.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie, but you can actually, in the movie, they show those tactics by the U.S. in use. And actually, they actually, in that movie and the book that it came from, all of what they talked about, like they tried to do mind control and stuff, like a big part of it is like the men who stare at goats, they stared at goats trying to like use telekinetic powers.
Yeah.
We tried all of that shit back in the Cold War. We tried to get crazy mental powers. That's like the MK Ultra shit, and that's shit that I really want to cover at some point in the show that I'm really not prepared to speak to at this point. It's very real, and we absolutely adapted methods from others based on it. Now, on that point, and that's routing us on back, we talked about KGB methods, and we're going to delve into World War II here, which, you know, this is a dark point. Japanese POW camps specifically, they were notoriously brutal. That's not to say others weren't, but have you guys ever heard of Unit 731?
No.
No.
All right. This is like, folks, if you're a queasy person, like, don't listen to this part, because Unit 731, this is an obscenely sobering part of human history. And Unit 731, it was a medical test facility in I forget the exact country it's in, I'm sorry, but the Japanese ran it. And what it was they had political prisoners, POWs, civilians of the countries they occupied, where they subjected them to the depths of human imagination for what you could do to a person. They would subject people to hypothermia. They would inject them with STDs to figure out how far syphilis progressed. We unfortunately have a lot of our information from them based on that. They would burn them. They would subject them to electrical shock, biological and chemical weapons. There was a guy who was subjected to nuclear radiation, and his skin melted off. They kept him alive to figure out what happened. They were seriously fucked up. Forced pregnancy via rape. They would rape the fucking people, and then they would see what happens as they did experiments on pregnant women. It was an absolute depth of human fucking nature. It was unnatural and horrifying, and frankly, just like, it's too hard to think about. But obviously, amongst all that, these people were subjected to the lack of sleep through stimulants, simple violence, the threat of all of it. But where we can tie this type of brutality back to the fictional story of the Russian sleep experiment, I'm not saying this stuff just for shock value or to give context or even just content for the episode. It goes back to the story, because following World War II, Allied forces, we effectively divvied up the people and the records of these experiments, both from the Japanese and the Nazis, and we brought in a number of Nazi scientists in a program called Operation Paperclip.
Yep.
And we effectively forgave these war criminals in order to obtain their findings. Where this comes in to the Russian sleep experiment, and where my shirt's about to go off in a conspiracy train of thought, is that in this process of divvying up the scientists, the U.S. knows who we got. We got Werner von Braun. He brought us to the moon. We got a number of scientists with observable scientific progress that we've made on the back of human suffering. However, we don't know who the Russians took in. We still don't. That has never been disclosed.
It's true.
We don't know what technologies they inherited. We don't know what medicines they've inherited. We haven't the slightest idea. And from there, I would like to discuss, and this goes back to some of what Sam talked to, the amphetamine use in the Third Reich.
Amphetamines in the Third Reich.
This is essential to understanding their tactics, their abilities, and what happened. So, in the Third Reich, in Nazi Germany, at the time, troops of both sides were known to take amphetamines in combat. You can even read it in James Bond books. He regularly takes bennies to stay up during his missions and keep focus.
Yep.
Now, where this is critical to understand, first of all, the Allies, like I mentioned, they use benzodrine. That is, Sam, and can you speak to this? Benzodrine and methamphetamine are chemically different, right?
Benzodrine is just straight up amphetamine. It's got a little bit something else there, but for the most part, it is a standard amphetamine plus a weird, like a sulfate.
But basically, you know, like benzodrine is what like the bulk of America was on at that point. Johnny Cash was popping bennies. Housewives took him to stay up. Fucking the soldiers took him to stay up. In a similar vein, amphetamines were a big part of life in Nazi Germany as well. They were given a drug under the name of Pervitin, better known by its chemical name methamphetamine, which, as Sam has discussed, is chemically similar, but in effect, extremely different.
It's like you put a third arm on your Mr. Potato Head. Like it's still Mr. Potato Head, but it's now weird.
Yeah, and you know, fucking amphetamines are used effectively to combat certain disorders. Methamphetamine, as far as I know, is not medically usable.
No, there is a prescription for meth.
Is there really?
Yeah.
What's the treat?
It's kind of extreme cases of what you would need amphetamines for.
Now, these soldiers, fueled by meth, stormed across Europe. The Blitzkrieg particularly were fond of their fucking methamphetamine. And it was like nothing the Allies had ever seen before. They made them insane soldiers. Hitler himself, daily actually, was injected with a narcotic cocktail containing methamphetamine, barbiturates, and opiates.
Jesus
Incredibly
Christ.
addictive things, combating each other in the body. Like, I can't, like...
Yeah.
How was he not constantly sick?
Well,
I mean, I think he was.
he was. And there's a video I saw
Have you
of...
seen him?
When they hosted the Olympics in Nazi Germany, there's a video of Hitler just rocking back and forth furiously, like clearly geeking out on amphetamines.
Yeah.
Like, to anyone who's seen it, like it's clearly he's just tweaking out.
Especially with something like, I mean, we don't see barbiturates being used that often anymore.
No.
But barbs plus opiates plus meth is like you often see in amphetamines and opiates being used today, but with barbiturates it's
Yeah, barbiturates,
very
like they're just
rare.
not manufactured in the same way that they like kind of like
No.
Quaaludes. You just can't find them.
Yeah.
But,
Unless it's like phenobarbital, I think, is like the prescribed.
In conjunction with this, the Nazi soldiers were also fond of their boozing. It was even encouraged. A mixture of methamphetamine and alcohol are known to cause hyperactivity, changes in sleep patterns, psychosis, hallucinations, delusions of grandeur, something that the Nazis had in heaps.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yup.
that's called the Third Reich.
Aggressiveness, also in heaps. And then brain damage. All of these...
Also in heaps if you're a Nazi.
This is the modern image of the fucking Nazi, is the mix of meth and booze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we look at them as. And then further along the line, so for one thing, personally, I think you can kind of track the trajectory of the Third Reich along with the trajectory of somebody addicted to methamphetamine. The shell of it towards the end, the whole thing, like you have these triumphant, obscene, like unseen before victories. And then the withdrawals come in. We start seeing dependency. We start seeing the issues related to that. And then later on, towards the end of the war, Allied bombing of supply lines and factories halted the production of Pervitin. There's letters from the front lines of soldiers, Axis soldiers writing back to family, begging them to just send them a little bit of Pervitin to get through the war.
Jesus.
These soldiers were suffering withdrawal left and right, and the subsequent withdrawal of all of this, actually, some historians claim, may have even contributed to Hitler's suicide.
His assumed suicide.
Yeah, he's in Argentina.
Yeah, he's in
He's dead
Argentina. No, he's still alive.
But given that, all right, so like let's think about the Russian sleep experiment. You have a super powerful, arguably amphetamine gas piped into them. You have unethical experiments. You have human subjects that are considered subhuman, such as political prisoners of war. You have all the makings of what, say you brought in these scientists, you want to learn more, you want to progress science, you have no fucking concern for the people involved. It's not a far reach to say that people have dabbled in similar experiments to the creepypasta, likely not ended with someone saying, "We are the madness in your mind and I am spooky."
And I am the spooky now.
It's not entirely ridiculous, at least in my conspiracy brain, that anybody who brought in Nazi scientists or Japanese fucking findings would have dabbled in these types of experiments.
No, I don't think it's impossible at all. I think this is absolutely, it already happened. I think I think
it's entirely likely.
This story is false, but what happened is true in like a parallel sense.
The outcome compared to the narrative of the story don't follow, but unfortunately, I really do see this as a real possibility of a genuine experiment that likely happened.
Unlike our other, beef scaraganoffs, the goat man, dare I say the rake.
Don't you dare say
I already said it.
My apartment isn't haunted yet, god damn it.
Yeah, well, now it is. I shipped you 5 ghosts. This is the only creepypasta we've read so far, and probably one of the few creepypastas out there that is real in a sense.
It's extremely human.
Yeah, this is
unfortunately extremely human.
Yeah, I mean maybe the even tearing out the guts.
No, I mean
Supreme
like we said,
psychosis.
like you see with like standard meth use, you see people picking at themselves, like they're covered in scabs. You see it all the time.
They didn't say they severed the organs.
Yeah, they were still
attached.
They're still attached, and they were also like intact.
Yeah, so
not only that, they still had an urge to live too. They still wanted to stay alive.
Yeah, they just picked, and then there was organs on the ground, but your body's kind of just like a weird fucking cocoon.
I just had a thought. How did none of these people get like gangrene from their fucking organs being out for that long?
In the Russian sleep experiment?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they fucking did, but it's not that quick.
All right, argument. Right? They're in a sterile environment with canned oxygen.
Well, they were
being
pooping on the floor.
So?
Yeah. They had feces all over the place. That is not a sterile environment.
Poo-poo no
they
good.
Were fine.
Poo-poo bad. I'm sure they had fucking gangrene, but like none of them lived past like...
Maybe there was a preservative within the gas.
Okay.
Maybe, but
some sort of antiseptic.
I mean, Toria, how long does gangrene like go for?
Like, how long does it take to take hold?
Yeah, so I think they only started ripping shit out around like, what was it, like day 10 or 9?
Yeah, it was day 15 that they opened the thing.
Yeah,
but it was before that. I think maybe like day 10
poo-poo
that they
on the walls.
Yeah, they smeared their poop in there, so they're still walking at that point.
Yeah,
the incubation period is usually less than 24 hours, but can be anywhere between 7 hours to 6 weeks.
Yeah, but how long does it take to like kill you? And I don't think it works quickly enough that like organ rip out to hospital table.
We also don't know how long they're sitting there like that.
Yeah,
we don't know the speed at which they
from poop wall to opening.
Yeah, there's 5
a big days where you don't know what's going on.
People put poop on the walls all the time without ripping open their entrails.
I mean, they watch them put poop on the wall.
Although I think what would probably be more realistic is that they got sepsis.
Oh, I'm sure they got something.
Well, they also just didn't give a shit about surgery. Like, they medically shouldn't have been alive. That was...
Yeah, that's a good point.
They were scrounging around in their own shit with, like, organs on the floor, and they were like, here we are.
Yeah.
Sam, you do that, too. I'm going to go ahead and say, even though I don't particularly find this particular take on sleep deprivation believable, I think shit like this has happened.
I think the idea is super believable.
Yeah.
Even knowing that this obviously didn't happen.
Yeah.
This particular one.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like so is this story true? And they're like, No.
Yeah, there's enough of
No.
people asking, "Is this true?"
Yeah.
With like facts being like, "Did it happen?" And they're like, "Well, I'm sure it happened somewhere."
It just makes sense that we've studied, we as in like people and the powers that be have studied exactly what sleep deprivation is.
Yeah.
Now, this is unfortunately this is I think the one thing that we've ever covered so far that we can unanimously say, not only is it a stretch, not only is it possible, it fucking is true.
It sounds like you're forgetting the Kappa.
Well, the Kappa's my little friend.
You can never forget the Kappa, Sam. Come on.
Never forget the Kappa, folks.
The Kappa's my little buddy, and he hangs out in the toilet. I call him my bidet. Because he's my bidet.
Your bidet.
He's my buddy.
Bidet.
He's my buddy.
All right, folks. This is a somber note, but you know what? We're going to get the goofs and the gaffs out back at you. Welcome back to the Beast of the Week podcast. We're so glad to bring it to you. Go ahead and follow us. We're at Truth is Stupid on all the social media outlets. Shout out big old Pat Nestor. Pat, I'm really sorry I texted you 911 emergency on New Year's Eve to call you, but I missed you.
I forgot. I almost wanted to shout out Pat Nestor on his birthday, which recently happened as well.
Yeah, shout out birthday Pat Nestor, but
Happy birthday,
he's
Pat Nestor.
75.
Can
you believe it?
Yeah. Can't
You're
believe it.
almost a whole century old.
It's okay.
Congratulations.
He's
We
Boston
still love
strong, so.
We still love your wrinkly stuff. You did we said 911.
You did hang dong.
It was 911. We texted you 911 emergency for real. And then you picked up the phone and then Charlie screamed and then you hung up, which just really seems, it might have still been 911. But anyway, that was really rude of me and I'm sorry. Thanks for listening, folks. Remember, stay spooky and you just don't know.
And make sure you get some sleep.
Don't sleep. Don't sleep. Don't eat. Burn your social security card. Burn your driver's license. Flip a cop off in his fucking face.
He can't even do anything about it.
Just pee on your mother's heirlooms. Just fuck it up. Just fuck it up, people. Just fuck it up.
Maybe go to sleep instead, though.
No.
Okay.
I'm going to go to sleep.
I'm gonna go to sleep.
Stay up. Welcome to my organs.
Yeah, not that.
Oh, Sam's dead.
What just happened?
Dropped his pogs.
Yeah, all my Digimon cards fell out of my goddamn